Hello and welcome to the Saturday night stream of the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where I've finally begun to work out how to do a decent looking crop and layout on OBS. It's a great piece of software, though it takes forever to learn anything on it. And as usual, let's get just started with a bit of rapid. What the audio does? Let me see what I can do about that. Audio Eingabe. Okay, no, that's where it should be. Let's move this microphone a little bit closer. Maybe that'll make a difference. That's okay. That's up to the maximum. That's up to the maximum. Okay, how about now? How's that sounding? Don't know why that happened. So I haven't actually changed anything in terms of the settings for my voice, but... oh. It is a constant learning experience. No, why the hell isn't the chat window showing up the way it's supposed to? Maybe I have to shorten it. How are you doing tonight? Okay. Okay, there we go, finally. I spent all afternoon getting all this laid out, and then the bloody chat window didn't come out the way it was supposed to, for some reason. That sounds like one of the lesser crafts one can build in Warcraft. What's wrong with the in-game cursor? 우리 힘. Oh, that's a pain in the ass. 날이 펴도 온 세상이 놀래우며 신기로운 속도로 우린 나르네. 오케이. Right. I think it is about time to fianchetto my light squared bishop, but I think I might actually just wait since now my queen's attacked. Somehow fitting that the body within the Democratic Socialists of America that is resisting the idea that Jamal Bowman ought to be expelled for completely for being directly involved in atrocities against Palestinians through his votes for the Iron Dome system and his participation in propaganda tours and everything is called the NPC. That really kind of fits, because they really do seem like the ones that would send you on the most pointless side quests as well. Okay, I've made up on time. Still very slightly ahead material. I'm just hoping that I can find some way to get that knight here to get out of the way. Because the minute that knight goes someplace else, it's mate. As it currently stands. Yeah, actually, that's no good, though. If I take the knight, I'll probably take back with the pawn, in which case the rook is defending the pawn here on g2, and I don't have mate. Of course, they might not want to fuck up their pawn structure and just make the mistake of taking... Oh, okay. With... Ah, hell, no, they didn't. That's unfortunate. Hi! This time you didn't miss the chess. What exactly is Warframe? Ah, this game is being watched on Lichess by somebody whose username is Google was my idea. I wonder if that's actually the case, though. That seems unlikely. Okay, and that actually defends my king and attacks white's king, so that's not a bad arrangement. Okay. Let's just trade that away. Because then I can just bring my other rook into this, and I think then I've just got mate. Yeah, take back. Go on, take it. You know you want it. Mic seems to be working. What, is it quiet? That is the weirdest thing. And there we go, GG. Maybe if I do it like this? And yeah. And now we're going to finish off that video we started, and actually mostly finished last night. Where we left off. Three particularly irritating reactionaries were telling us what BreadTube supposedly gets wrong about fascism. And Caleb Maupin actually said, without the slightest hint of irony, that sometimes fascists could sometimes sound like they're communists. Which, yeah, that's true. Can you think of an example? And let's check this volume book.
Violence against the Proud Boys, getting in violent conflicts against various gangs on the right. that's eventually going to spill over to communists because they continually label communists as fascists.
Yeah, okay. Now that's the most ridiculous thing. Oh, okay, good. That's a relief because I had just got done fixing my mic because Andromeda Echo was saying that it was quiet. Yeah, so the idea here, I love this, is that if people that first they came for the Proud Boys, and of course they're framing the Proud Boys here as victims. Peter Coffin is as if the Proud Boys didn't travel around the country just looking to start some shit and attack people and occasionally do the odd bit of attempted murder. But if they defeat the Proud Boys, supposedly they're going to come after communists because they claim no examples of them calling of any anti-fascist communist calling a communist a fascist. Although I would imagine it, if there's anyone who calls themselves a communist and is then referred to as a fascist by communists, it's probably because they defend fascists, like Peter Coffin's doing here.
And supporting the police state explicitly.
Yeah,
there are Antifa people doing that.
It's supporting the police state. Where the fuck are they getting this stuff? The police state is attacking them. Their whole point, I mean, the slogan they chant a lot is cops and Klan hand in hand, because that's literally the case. I mean, they're supporting the police state. That is so cute. Mind you, meanwhile, Caleb Maupin here claims that Black Lives Matter is some sort of weird conspiracy, and that actually the only true representatives of the black community are the Nation of Islam, which is also allowing itself to be used as a conduit for Scientology to exploit the black community. So that's kind of an interesting little thing. Yeah.
One thing I said in the book, which is that, RedTube is a little bit more dangerous than some of these fake socialist trends of the past, because, usually the attitude of like these fake socialist trends would be, their attitude would be basically they would be trying to tone down revolutionary activism. Don't occupy your factory, just vote for the Democrats, whatever. RedTube is
okay, so they're more dangerous, and the danger he sees is that they're physically attacking fascists. That's kind of why does it make him nervous when fascists are getting physically attacked?
Is doing the exact opposite, right? They are trying to escalate like an armed confrontation with the alt-right.
Okay, and this is such a bullshit talking point, because the armed confrontation started from their end. Fascists were bringing guns and pointing them at anti-racist protests before there was any really large-scale organized anti-fascist activity going on in the U.S. Before anyone was actually really organizing to take those groups down, you had groups like the fucking Oath Keepers and the 3%ers showing up at anti-racist protests. I'm talking about like going back to Ferguson and shortly thereafter, and threatening them. This isn't, I mean, the idea that by punching people in the face who have been regularly attempting to kill people by trying to run them over with cars and stab them and shit, with the cops helping them out, that defending oneself and one's community from that sort of thing is escalating is interesting.
At a time when the right wing has a much bigger base among the population.
Right.
It's like, and basically, if they are able to pull this off, they are able.
And also, okay, that's bullshit too. The right wing does not have a much bigger base in the population. In fact, the right wing is actually in the minority in this country. If you look at actual polling data, not just the shit that they show in the media, not just the executive summaries, but you go through the questions, what you find is actually the majority of the population on a whole wide variety of issues are well to the left of the Democrats. I mean, and have sort of vaguely social democratic approach to things. Meanwhile, the people who actually really sympathize with groups like the Proud Boys, who these people are having like sympathy pains with right here, that's about 9% of the population. And that the percentage who will actually go out in the streets with them is not actually, it's not statistically significant even. We're talking in the 4 figures. And you do have to wonder why somebody would be trying to create this impression. I mean, and the idea that because Trump's in office, was in office, is what they're trying to say here. It means that the right wing base is bigger, when by any normal standard, Trump actually lost the fucking election. It's only that you have the U.S. system where the loser sometimes gets to win. It's interesting. They really are trying to demobilize any kind of community self-defense against fascism here.
Able to kind of mobilize for mass violence in the
Welcome
streets
back.
between right-wingers and left-wingers. The result will be one of two things. One being a huge crackdown on all political activism and all speech by the state in order to stabilize things. Or two, an outright victory for the right wing.
And that's exactly okay. See, this is really cute because this is several years in to this confrontation at this point, and there hasn't been any outright victory for the Fash. In fact, they get their asses kicked pretty much any time they show up anywhere. They have tried going to places like Pikeville, Kentucky, in hopes of finding some kind of a local base, and they got kicked out by the locals there. I mean, that's the thing. The Fash are not local to most of the places they show up in. They fly in. They come from all over the place in order to make up the numbers, and the people who send them on their way are almost exclusively locals. This right-wing victory they're trying to conjure up here is just nonsense. And the idea that if people defend themselves against the Fash, there will be repression, and therefore they shouldn't defend themselves against the Fash, ignores the fact that given the level of cooperation between fascist paramilitaries and the cops, Fash are part of the repression. The repression's already happening. This is the response to it.
Neither of those are desirable, right? RedTube is not going to be able to make the revolution by going out and punching it out or shooting it out with the Proud Boys, okay?
Imagine Skippy the Bear trying to fight right-wingers with a gun, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what we need now more than ever is
So, yeah, I mean, because obviously what communists and anarchists on YouTube were planning to do was have the revolution by just on their own going out and beating up the Proud Boys. Skippy the Bear, for anyone who's unfamiliar with the weird-ass terminology they use here, is thought slime. For some reason, Caleb Maupin has this weird neurotic thing around the name Thought Slime. He does not like to say it. He thinks it's like Beetlejuice. And if he says it too many times, then Thought Slime's gonna show up and humiliate him for lying about Malthusianism. And the funny thing is, they keep on trying to attribute Malthusianism to communists here, but it's actually the people who are really big into that are Fash. Fash love that stuff. But instead they're trying to attribute it to people who are against Fash. It's a remarkable, but yes, isn't it hilarious to
ideological education? We need average Americans to understand socialism, understand that socialism is not everyone taking all their money and giving it to somebody else. Socialism is about organizing the economy to put people first. I've used the slogan that we need a government of action that will fight for working families.
And that is the shittiest slogan ever. Like, who the hell, who does that speak to? I mean, who listens and says, oh, a government of action, that's what we've always wanted. A government that, I guess, does stuff. And working families, in one of his videos, he tried to claim that somebody was saying that working families was a fascist buzzword. It's a Democratic Party buzzword. It's one of the ways the Democrats avoid talking about the working class, because they don't give a shit about the working class, but they want to kind of make it seem like they're talking to the working class. That is such a nothing slogan. I mean, the whole point of a slogan is that it's supposed to be, like, rousing and concise and tell you in one sentence the gist of what you're trying to do. And this doesn't do any of that. And then this is a guy who's going to lecture us on propaganda, apparently.
The slogan that we've used at the Center for Political Innovation. Imagine, a government that took action to help the people, whether it was with healthcare, jobs, and education, a government that actually swung into action. You guys are parents, and you know that if your kids were going to school without proper clothes on or something, you could go to jail. That's criminal neglect, right? Well, I maintain that the government of the United States is guilty of criminal neglect. People are drinking water that's not properly purified. The power grids are exploding.
Okay, and so you've decided that the people you need to slag off are the people who are actually trying to do something about that, raise awareness of that. I mean, why not spend your time on that rather than just calling random people Malthusians for no reason?
They're wasting all the money on wars and bombs and tanks and drones in other countries while people are hungry here in the United States. And I maintain the government is guilty of neglect. And what we need is a government of action that will fight for working families, that will, instead of...
Yeah, which is great because that is a totally actionable slogan, too. We can just sort of... Like, I mean, we just need to check in our cupboards and find where we left the fucking government of action. And we just you open up the little Venturi valve, and you blow it up. You have to, inflate it, and then you got a government of action, and you just wind it up, and it goes off and fights for whatever the fuck working families are.
Declaring war on China or Russia or Cuba or Venezuela will declare war on hunger and homelessness and student debt. Right?
Yeah, because declaring war on poverty, that's when the government declares war on something, it's just over. I mean, we had the fucking war on poverty. And then, first of all, yes, it did actually reduce poverty to some extent, but then the government decided to stop doing that. And the only time, they never were all that enthusiastic about it to begin with. You can talk about what you would do if you were in charge of the U.S. government all you want, and it's all totally just unmaterialist because you have to consider the fact that it's a capitalist state and that the power is actually elsewhere. The power is with the people who actually control all the shit people need to live, and that doesn't change just because you get into the government, even if it were plausible that you would end up in the fucking government. This is the most unactionable slogan ever. It's just NGO bullshit. Yeah, well, yeah, hey, Tara, good to see you again. Yeah, I know that war on drugs, I think drugs won, I think. Well, yes, because Reagan was such a strong advocate for continuing to have poverty.
Right? That's what we need in the United States more than ever. And that's the message we need to get to people. We need to get people to understand that the global struggle against imperialism and the struggle to improve their lives are linked, right? That the people around the world struggling against imperialism and the people within the United States struggling for economic justice have the same enemy, which is the imperialist Wall Street monopolies.
Exactly. And Marx...
And again, this is... really just completely nothing propaganda, though. Yeah, first of all, when we just limit it to Wall Street instead of just talking about capitalists in general, I mean, the capitalists on Main Street are also causing us fucking problems. The problem, and none of that goes away just because you get a government of action. In fact, I mean, we've seen what happens in that sort of situation. Let's say we do get some sort of a government, some kind of... I mean, he talks about it like it's socialism. It's not. It's fucking social democracy on a good day. And we've seen in Chile, in Venezuela, in quite a few places what happens when the ruling class wakes up and a government like that gets elected. And they immediately declare war on the economy. It's not that easy, and getting into government has not actually proved to be a particularly useful way of achieving this end.
Marxists often get a very bad rap as pessimists, like, because we're attempting to show, like, that this is all a big connected problem. It's much, much larger than any one discrete, like, oh, we need...
Yeah, in fact, one of the people giving the left a bad rep as pessimists is Caleb Maupin, who just was explaining why the left should surrender to about 1,500 chuds who run at the first sight of a red and black flag. Yeah, I mean that's not at all pessimistic.
Need to fight racism because racism is a thing. Like, yes, we do, but it's part of a much larger thing. Now, what we ultimately get is then people saying, "Oh, it's very pessimist." But you're an optimistic person. This is an optimistic message. You're saying, "Hey,
No, it
we need
isn't.
to actually do something that improves people's lives. We need
Except that it isn't a thing. A government of action isn't something we do. There is absolutely nothing in that bogus ass slogan that actually gives people any kind of suggestion for what they could be doing right now. The people he slags off as Malthusians and suggests that since they hate fascists so much and beat up Nazis, they might come up after communists like themselves. Uh, those people actually, if you ask them, a lot of them actually have some pretty clear ideas about what people can actually do themselves right now to address issues that we're talking about, whether, it's deportations or whether it's people fucking starving in the neighborhood. A government of action does not give anyone any ideas of what to do. That just sounds like voting for, well, Democrats, actually.
to work with that as our primary goal. And that's really, I think that as much as like they might try to paint this book as like you saying there's a CIA conspiracy to kill communists.
Because he explicitly says that. He explicitly says that. He even names a person who is supposedly the puppet master of BreadTube, a group that he has just, I mean, never mind that BreadTube isn't an organization in the first place. It is a Reddit thread, and some of the people who get grouped into that know each other and work together, some of them don't. And in his version of it, you got people who have absolutely nothing to do with anything anyone calls BreadTube, like fucking Destiny. I mean, he explicitly says that there's a conspiracy. He explicitly says it's the CIA. And he explicitly names who's in charge of the conspiracy. So, I mean, he's sitting here laughing like this. He knows perfectly well what's in his fucking book.
Communists. It's really you saying like, look, here is the actual ideological obstacle in order for us to actually maintain analysis.
What did you read the book, Peter? Did you read the fucking book?
As to what the actual problems of today are. And to round this out, your CPI, the thing.
Yeah, I like Caleb Muppet here. He looks really kind of relieved. The minute somebody else starts talking about the content of his book, he's worried that they might have actually read it, and now it turns out Peter clearly hasn't read it. So he doesn't have to worry about something coming out that he doesn't want to hear about.
That you founded. Could you give us a little bit of your vision there and tell us what you intend to be doing over the next few years with that?
Absolutely. And actually, I'm trying to build a think tank because every day, practically, I get approached by another young person, usually someone in their late teens, early 20s, who has seen my streams and says, I believe in what you're doing. I want to do something. I actually want to do something. I want to take action. I don't just want to sit on the internet and feel bad about all this stuff. I want to do something. And I'll tell you, the most rewarding experience is being part of a community of people who are committed to changing the world. And
have no ideas about how to go about it except for some really vague ass slogan.
Realizing that you're not alone. And one of the most dangerous things about BreadTube, I feel, is that it's very isolated. People sit there and they watch the videos on BreadTube and they feel like the world is so bad and they feel hopeless. But socially,
hey, that's bullshit, actually. I mean, it's not. I mean, maybe some people experience it as isolating, but the thing is, people connect with each other in the Discords, in those chats. Even just the existence of those videos means, hey, look, there's somebody who's actually seeing these problems that I'm seeing, and they have some ideas about it that actually that are compatible with what I've been thinking about it. It actually works as a conversation starter. I would say, in many ways, it brings people together. Is that enough? And of course not. But I would not say that it is isolating. I mean, because I remember what it was like in the 90s when we didn't have any of this shit. When, if you didn't, like, know some, like, local commo or something like that, you wouldn't hear about it. The only reason I knew about any of this is that I had a really, really good news agent in downtown Cincinnati. I went there at first just because they had, like, international magazines. I could pick up Der Spiegel or something like that, Le Monde. But, then I started going to their politics section, and I found, like, Fair's newsletter, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, not the white nationalist anti-immigrant group. And I started reading that, and I started reading, they had some other stuff in there, some Marxist journals and things as well, and I started looking at that, and if it hadn't been for that, but that actually told me that people existed who were having thoughts along the same lines as I did, but it still didn't tell me where they were. I still didn't know any. I mean, I would have loved to have had, this sort of means of communication at the time, because I would have been able to get connected with people way sooner. And my experience in general is this has been that whether it's YouTube, whether it's social media, I mean, for all the horrible shit, it has also brought people together who don't suck in all sorts of useful ways, which is one of the things that's being cracked down on right now. So, I mean, the idea that this stuff is isolating, I mean, I'm not sure compared to what, because it's this whole attitude of Caleb Muppets where it's basically him lecturing people and he's going to have a think tank so he can lecture people more effectively and be condescending. Yeah, no.
Capitalism is fundamentally optimistic, right? You listen to the songs that people sang as they were, industrializing the USSR. You listen to the songs of the Cuban people, and you listen to some of these older folks. There's a great, PBS documentary that interviews some of the older folks who were around at the time the USSR was industrializing, and they describe this feeling of community that comes from being part of a mission to make the world a better place, and that what we need more than anything is not, individualism, isolation, and pessimism. We need a community of solidarity.
Yeah, which is what you're slagging off. I mean, the people who are defending their communities from fascist paramilitary groups, that's a community of solidarity. Is it perfect? No, but it is actually that, and it is people who came together, who saw a particular problem, namely neo-Nazis feeling confident enough that they could go around in an organized fashion and try to bust heads, and they said, no, you're fucking not going to do that. And, I mean, that is an example of it. That is an example of people coming together and dealing with a problem that the state and the ruling class actually have been very instrumental in creating. So, I mean, any effort to actually directly deal with any of these things, he slags off.
And that's what the CPI is about trying to build, a community of solidarity dedicated to spreading a socialist message. It's not a party. It's not a political group. We're not going around engaging in protests or activism. We are going around bringing people the revolutionary message. We are spreading the truth and light of Marxism, and people are ready for this. I mean,
spreading the truth and light. Okay, that's very very materialist there. All very just missionary shit. It's all so top down. Everything to do with him. I mean, like, even he has to make it seem like people are flocking to him to seek out answers. And I can't imagine. First of all, he doesn't actually have that many followers. He has more than me, to be clear. I got fuckles. I'm happy for all of my subscribers. I think they're wonderful people, but I don't have many of them. He's got 12,000, which is way less than pretty much any of the people he's slagging off. Despite the fact that probably in large part because of the fact that the way he talks about himself, and he manages to make everything about himself, is to suggest that he's some sort of a beacon. He wants to be some sort of latter-day Kim Il-sung.
And the country is hungry for this. We need hope more than anything. We need hope and optimism in order to get a real solution. So that's what I'm all about. So there you go. And thank you for having me on.
No, thank you
Absolutely.
for coming on. The book is BreadTube Serves Imperialism. It'll be in the show notes. We'll link to it. It's available on Amazon. I would highly recommend it. Like, in terms of
God, I mean, either Peter Coffin hasn't read this thing, or Peter Coffin is more full of shit than I would have given them credit for.
what the title implies it is about, and the actual scope of the book, it is so much more deep. It's not all just like talking about how Vosh, sucks.
Not a Twitter thread.
Well, no, it's lying about Thought Slime and literally conjuring up a really bizarre conspiracy theory that they don't want to. It's funny, you write a book about it and then you don't want to talk about it. That's a really weird thing to do, I think.
Not a Twitter.
No, it's not a Twitter thread. It's not you doing call out culture on BreadTube.
It reads very much.
Well, yes, it fucking is. Except, I mean, call out culture, which is what what right wingers used to talk about before we had, they started calling it cancel culture, is when somebody does something fucked up and you say, hey, that person did something fucked up. Hey, look, you did something kind of fucked up. Maybe you want to think about that. What he does is he makes up fucked up shit and then attributes it to people.
like a Marxist text and describing
fucking
the state
isn't.
of like this new leftist communism and like how dire it is, but then ending on this very positive, what can we actually do? And
Again,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time,
Yes,
Caleb. This was
absolutely.
fantastic. Let's do it again sometime.
Talk to you soon.
All right,
Thanks
have a
again.
good one.
Okay, done with that. God, these fucking people. I mean, I can't believe I used to actually have some respect for Peter Coffin. Peter Coffin used to actually seem to be fairly decent. I don't really know what happened to them, but fucking hell. Gonna play some more Rapid for a little bit before we move on to another video. Let me just make sure chat isn't. Oh yes, okay, that chat is not being latent. Good to know. I was just about to test that up. Yeah, he lives in his own little world, and he really thinks that he's some sort of oracle. In fact, I mean, in his fucking website, he has a quote from somebody. He doesn't say who, because I wouldn't, if I had said something like that, I wouldn't want it to be quoted to me either. I would be a little bit embarrassed by that. But he's calling him the sage you were always looking for but didn't know you were looking for. I mean, real cult leader shit. Which is remarkable, considering that nobody's really all that interested in him. Okay, we're gonna do a Sicilian. Alex. 8934. Okay, it looks like my favorite blunder might be coming. Are we gonna get a knight g4? I mean, knight g5. No, we're not going to get a knight g5. I mean, we're not going to get it in the way that's useful to me. I like knight g5 without that move of the d-pawn, because then I get a free knight. And I like a free knight. God, I mean, I don't really get the idea of just denying the central thrust of his book. Like, the idea is to get people to read it. And then they're going to read it and they're going to find that the central thrust of his book is this ridiculous conspiracy theory. I mean, if you're going to try to grift off of that, you should just own it. if you were really going to be that embarrassed that you put it in print, maybe you shouldn't have put it in fucking print to begin with. I mean, he does seem to have been fairly embarrassed about that anti-Semitic book of his. Okay, I fucked that up. I needed to move that bishop before doing the other stuff so that I would not have an isolated rook. Well, at least I've got a developmental opportunity here. How do you like the new layout, by the way? Oh, hell, I think I might be nearing game over here. Yes, I am. Unlike Game 6 of the World Championship, this was not the longest chess game by any metric. Okay. And I think we're going to move on to another nice long one. And that we're going to just be with for a few weeks. Will's back. That's the guy with the pedo mustache who gets really freaked out about Muppet babies. Understanding leftist language and woke Lord of the Rings. Okay, I think we have a winner here. Let me know the
Live.
Guys, hi.
Actually, let me see. How does this look? Actually, that's not bad.
Everybody, it is Amla of Will and Amla Live. Unfortunately, I have some not good news to start out the show today, so we're not going to do a skit, which I know you guys are used to, so I...
Oh, well, I think the not so good news was that Will was back. It says so right in the title that It's already taken care of.
Apologize in advance. But we got note that Will is not going to be returning to the show. So it's actually now going to be Taylor and Amala Live, which is kind of...
Oh. Okay. That sounds like good news. Who the fuck is Taylor?
weird.
Woohoo! It's my big break. Guys, I'm just want to thank everyone who has helped me get to this place today. I never thought Will
In the
was that
place of the co-host not coming back, so he just sort of gets it by default.
great
Okay.
anyways, and thought I could do a better job. So
Yeah.
this was just a long time coming. And, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking on Taylor and Amala Live.
Taylor's taking this really well. I mean, we're not going to get into why Will's not going to be returning on the show because it's
'Cause
just
he
like
sucks?
it's I
Yeah,
don't know.
that
It's not
wouldn't-
probably
That wouldn't stop somebody being on PragerU. That's kind of a prerequisite. Maybe he watched his own videos and is reconsidering his life choices now.
something we shouldn't really talk about. But
May he rest in peace. Pieces.
now I guess we can roast him whenever we want because he's not coming back. No, I think he saw a little bit too much of Florida, honestly, while on his book tour, and that might have influenced him a little bit. I went to Cal State Fullerton, and all these girls were telling me about how influenced Will was by.
Oh, gosh. What?
Hey, sorry I'm late, guys.
Oh,
Oh God!
oh, hi.
How
Damn!
did you get in here? I thought we took away your key for the building.
No, I'm
I
back.
could've
Taylor,
swore.
if you want to head out, I think, and Amla, maybe you want to head
that's
out too.
unfortunate.
I could have swore I
I
changed
think
the
Will
door
Wit
code.
Live is back, baby. After a month on the road, guess who's back, baby? Will Wit, here in the flesh. No mustache, ready to start just absolutely tearing this show up again.
I wonder what children's puppet show he's going to get claim is sexualizing this time. He likes to pretend to be outraged.
Did you like that?
I did like that sound.
What did you
didn't
do?
hear it. He
Oh,
played
sorry.
the.
Oh, you don't have everything. I played the sad trombone sound while you were talking.
Well, even those sounds won't get me down because I am ecstatic to be back with everyone here today. I
Well,
have been famished.
many people
of
would be
these
able to say that.
conversations.
Famished of these conversations.
Yes, I've been hungry for them. My stomach has been rumbling to talk to you two again. I am very happy to be back. I hope.
Well, I didn't know what his stomach has to do with it, because the whole point of the stomach's involvement is it's the first step in turning whatever it is into shit. And these conversations just start out that
you
way.
guys, viewers, are happy to have me back as well. I'm happy to be back and influence and talk to you guys. It's been a long time. It's been a whole month, basically. And now,
Not
the
long
boy's
enough.
back, ready to take the show to the stratosphere. Okay? Ready to
That's
save
good, there's
this
no
dying
oxygen
show
there.
from
Well,
no.
there's
the
limited
shambles
oxygen
that it
there.
was in.
Oh yeah, it was just dying while you were away. Will, I simply couldn't handle it.
No, I really think that I saw some of the episodes when I was gone. I think you guys did a fantastic job.
Thank
you guys
you,
did a
Will.
really good
Aw.
job.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, even without me.
Yeah.
So it goes to show, one, that you guys can do the show without me.
Oh, was that ever in question or?
I
Okay.
questioned it. All
We're
right,
gonna skip.
first story we're going to talk about, which is one that now that I'm back, we can
The
talk
new-
about this because I'm incredibly passionate about it.
The new woke Lord of the Rings. Okay, what? Okay, I'd love to find out what makes it a woke Lord of the Rings by their standards.
is not so passionate, but I know Taylor will
We
be as well.
specifically waited until you were back to cover this. It came out a
I
couple
know.
days ago, but
Well, I did a whole rant about it on my Instagram. So here's the
Almo's
tweet.
been looking forward to this all week, by the
Oh,
way.
that's why.
She's texted me every
He's
day
moved
Look at his
on.
face.
anticipating this.
Doesn't it look so excited?
It does. It does.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're excited.
Always.
That's what I'm here for, to make you excited.
Yeah.
Okay. From Disclosed TV, new. Amazon's upcoming Lord of the Rings TV show will be multicultural. Black, Asian, brown, and even Maori type hobbits.
Maori, for fuck's sake. And so, okay, so it's woke if they don't just hire white people exclusively. That's the standard for being woke, apparently. Acting as if the Civil Rights Act exists, essentially.
Diverse and feature strong female characters, according to media reports.
Oh God, that's
What do you think about this,
terrible.
Alma? before,
fucking
before I go
nightmare.
off.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my small little bit of 2 cents. I know nothing about Lord of the Rings,
Well, that hasn't stopped you from talking about other things, so go on.
but obviously this is not cool. People are just doing this for woke virtue signaling. It's just doing diversity for the sake of diversity, and I'm assuming you're going to inform me about why this is wrong for Lord of the Rings specifically.
Yeah, no, yes, why is it wrong to have hobbits of different ethnic groups? Why exactly is it wrong? Since you're shooting in New Zealand and a significant segment of the population there is Maori, not to actually hire some Maori actors there for one of the biggest cash cows that the New Zealand film industry has. Tell me why that's wrong.
Because I don't know anything.
Guys, this is the end of the world. Okay? This is the worst thing ever. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to TV. Because Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's universe and the things that he has created, in my opinion, are the greatest works of fiction ever created in Britain, okay? They are Great Britain's best works ever. Because what is the Lord of the Rings, okay? The Lord of the Rings is people overcoming evil through insurmountable odds, the worst struggles, horrible things happening to them. No one expects that they will succeed, and they overcome it.
Okay, and not having that only be white people is bad. Why?
That is what the Lord of the Rings is, okay? So now they're saying they want to make it multicultural and feature strong female characters, okay? If you read the lore, there's already multicultures. You have multiculture with dwarves, men, Maiar, the Valar, elves, all these different people, okay?
And is there anything that says that they have to be all white?
It's already multicultural because all these cultures represent different types of people. And it already has strong female characters like Éowyn when she defeats the Witch King. And all sorts of other female characters in the Silmarillion too, like Luthien, who puts Melkor to sleep in the Great Hall so that Beren...
So you're saying that this is a thing that is part of what makes it... The existence of strong female characters is a good thing, apparently. So why is it a bad thing now?
and can steal Silmarils off his head. Okay, I'm going very nerdy,
Right,
with you guys,
Amala?
but I'm telling you guys, this
Right.
is
The
already true.
The Silmaril's off his head.
But here's the important part, okay? Here's what really matters, because you can use this for any of these things that the left is doing, whether it's this, whether it's gay Superman, whatever it is. We already have these.
What the left is making the new Lord of the Rings? When? Why? When? Which plenary assembly was this brought up at? I was not involved. I would have been very interested. Comrades, what the fuck are you doing? Not letting me in on this.
Stories established in America and in the West, okay? Lord of the Rings, it's been around for a long time. It is already established. Superman, been around for decades. Dean Cain did it back in the day. It's been around for a long time, right? So why now do you have to take an already pre-existing story and then ruin it with this multicultural cast and make people gay and black? It's like, I obviously don't care if an elf is black. I mean,
Well, except you've just said that making an elf black ruins it. So, it seems like you kind of care.
it means nothing to me if an elf is black. What matters is that you are sacrificing the story, the things that actually matter within the context of the characters, to make them into a woke diversity type of deal.
Okay, so what part of the story requires the elves to be white? Yeah,
That is why it is a horrible thing. Not because someone is black. Again, who cares if they're black? That doesn't matter.
Well,
What
you
matters is that
you
you are
do.
ruining what it's actually all about.
So, Will, are you going to be watching this show? And
I am
Taylor,
going to watch
are you
it.
going to watch it?
I am going to watch it because this is Lord of the Rings is incredibly special to me. It's one of my great passions in life is Middle Earth, and
okay, if it's ruining what it's all about, then what it's all about is whiteness, apparently. It's interesting he says all this, and this is... I've seen versions of this so many times, like fucking the coordinating, the guy who gets freaked out when women characters in children's cartoons have smaller breasts, does the same thing, and he'll say, oh yeah, this is totally ruining it, but he won't tell you why. It's like, oh, I don't care if they have black elves, but it's totally ruining everything that the whole story is all about. Well, then what's it ruining? And what's interesting, I mean, Amala clearly also knows that's not a question to ask. I mean, it's such an obvious question. You'd say, like, well, because she already said she doesn't know anything about Lord of the Rings, really. Well, then wouldn't you just ask, okay, what is it? What's all about? What's Lord of the Rings all about that it is ruined by the presence of a black character?
Everything that Tolkien has done, seriously, it has changed my life. I've told people that all the time, and they laugh at me sometimes as like a nerdy guy. But anyone who is as big of a fan of Lord of the Rings as me has read the books like I have, and also all of the other like Untold Tales.
Yeah, I mean, the cultures that they're not even really. It's not even pan-European diversity. It's fucking pan-British. I mean, the elves are Welsh and Cornish. You've got the dwarves are Scottish, and then everybody else is English, and then, well, including the orcs. The orcs are the most English group of characters in the entire universe, really. Yeah, so, I mean, it's so diverse it doesn't even actually get off the island of Britain.
The Silmarillion, all the other books by Tolkien. I'm drawing a little bit of a blank right now. The Hobbit, all of those will understand just how important these are and how life-changing these texts can be, really. And the fact that
okay, but you still haven't explained why it is that that any of that is ruined by having the characters be black or Maori. I mean, what about it is so life-changing? And if it's so life-changing, well, I mean, maybe it should be life-changing to people who don't look like a set of beige paint chips.
they're going to ruin it. These are legitimately the best fiction texts in the West. Seriously, I stand by that 100% with how influential they are and how much they mean to people and what the story actually represents, good versus evil. It's not some postmodern mess like Game of Thrones where, you know, the rulers suck and everybody's parents are rude to them and there's no right and wrong. It's like there's clear answers in Middle Earth and the Lord.
Oh, that's very interesting. He's told us a lot about himself. Because, you see, what he likes is stories where the rulers don't suck, where there isn't any conflict between the rulers and the people they're ruled over. I've never even watched Game of Thrones. And their parents are rude to them. Yeah, okay. He's told us quite a lot about his vision of society. It's very much, well, actually, kind of very compatible with fascism.
Or the Rings that makes it such a tale that will last throughout the ages. Go create your own fantasy world full of gay elves and black dwarves, okay? I don't care. Go do whatever you want.
You remind me of the Sonic Hedgehog kid.
When will you learn?
When will you learn? Your fantasies will never be quenched.
Wait, but okay, he still hasn't told us why anything about the story is harmed by having gay elves. I mean, honestly, if you can look at the whole sort of aesthetic of the elves and not already see a certain amount of gayness, I really don't understand you, first of all. And I mean, what exactly is ruined by having a dwarf be black?
It's like, go make your own fantasy. Why do you have to ruin the one that I already like?
Yeah.
You're ruining the one that I know and I like. Go make your own gay superhero.
And it's funny, I mean, his this clarity, this like Manichaean, it's all just very clear good and evil and everybody's white, and that is his criterion for like the greatest work of fiction in the English language or whatever. That already says something. I mean, normally you look at the things that often one of the major criteria for a literary work, you know, people talk about it being great or something like that, as opposed to just being just some crap that you can read on the train or something, is that it actually leaves you with questions that you try to answer yourselves. Oh, this is a PragerU dickhead. His name is Will Witt. He used to have a pedo mustache and get freaked out about Muppet babies. He finds them very sexual, apparently. But he went to Florida, and now he gets freaked out about black people being in Lord of the Rings.
Don't ruin Superman. Don't do it just because you want your own vanity to be expunged and exacerbated. Don't ruin.
That's not what expunged and exacerbated? You use these words. I do not think that they mean what you think they mean.
Things that people already like for yourself, for your own wokeness and virtue signaling.
Taylor?
Okay. But isn't that just you sort of saying that it harms your vanity to have the idea that there might be one out of the million different versions of Superman who does not match you in just about every fucking way? Except for being super and being watchable and not wearing his hat turned back like it makes him cool when he's just a douche.
Are you going to be watching this TV show?
I honestly, I don't know. Like, I didn't watch the last Star Wars because I hated what they did with the Star Wars. I literally just won't watch the new ones anymore, the Disney ones, because I think they ruined it. And I would be a lot more open to it if it weren't for headlines like this about how they're gonna put all this woke stuff in it.
Right.
The fact that they're even going in that direction just turns me off so much so that I would.
Okay, Taylor, Will can't explain it to us, so why don't you explain why it ruins everything about Lord of the Rings for Black and Maori actors to be cast in it?
Like, we watched the trailer for the new Home Alone movie that's coming out on Disney Plus this year, and I love Home Alone. It's like one of my favorite movies ever, the Home Alone 1 and 2. I will probably watch this one because on its face, there's not any like woke stuff in this Home Alone one. Now, I could watch it and then I could see that there is, and then I'll hate it and never watch it again. But I have an open mind. This is hard to have an open.
So he's saying, okay, so from the operative definition we've got here, what I'm hearing here is that it has an all-white cast.
Mind, and it's like it hurts all the deeper because of what it, like Will's saying, like what it meant to me personally, but also what it really stands for as a work of high culture and high art and fiction that is transcendent. And I think that's, like, as you're saying, Will, like the original Lord of the Rings, I mean, there's only one, but
oh, hey, Erica, and thank you. I spent the afternoon on that. It's taken me a while to work out exactly how to get all this shit to work well on OBS. It's a useful piece of software, but it's really, really complicated to get everything to work properly. And so I'm just learning as I go, but yeah, I'm quite happy with it too. God, none of these people have actually, okay, Will Shit has given us at least something. He says that it's the moral simplicity and the authoritarian ideology that he really appreciates that makes it a great literary work. But this guy is just kind of puking out buzzwords, and he still hasn't explained why any of this is made worse by not having an all-white cast.
It really is in a world where it appeals to very like deep truths and deep wisdom about humanity that's embedded in that story, and it appeals to like high values and paints a picture of, just a world where it defines what heroism is, what courage is, what masculinity is, what the battle of good versus evil. It's got a certain moral clarity, and it has a depth.
Okay, so he's just gonna say the same stuff as Will Shit.
That is beyond just what some woke writer can come up with in Hollywood, and it shows. And like the fact that they have to like rewrite Superman, rewrite Lord of the Rings, and put modern culture.
Wait a second, is there anything that actually? I mean, they talk about these things as if they're essential characteristics, that, like, the whiteness of the characters. And it's interesting because they clearly know that they can't be too mask off about this. They have to move away and talk about, like, the fucking literary qualities or whatever. Because, I mean, obviously, if I want to hear literary analysis, I'm gonna go to PragerU. I mean, you can't do better than that. I mean, move over fucking Derrida. But they really are very careful to avoid actually explaining why any of this actually makes it worse.
in it, just as to me demonstrates how bad modern culture sucks. It's like, why does modern art suck? It's because it doesn't have the centuries and millennia of the learned wisdom through time that is embedded into it and distilled into these powerful stories or visuals. Or
wait, okay, so modern art has no history? That's interesting, because I could have sworn that it did. But okay, but please, we're gonna hear, tell us more about Entartete Kunst. Please, let's hear more about that. That's something Caleb Moppet would actually get on with these guys. Because when he talks about art, he basically says the same sort of shit. And he also likes to use woke as a pejorative,
or whatever it may be. If the world started in 1960 when postmodernists started having ideas about deconstructing things, then that's as deep as your art gets, and it's laced with this ideology, and it's
okay. That's as deep as his fucking historical analysis gets, because you can get fucking hell. You want to know, deconstructing things, and a lot of the things that have been sort of grouped under the descriptor of postmodern are actually so old, so well established, that they're present in both of the works that have been seriously argued to be the first modern novel. Both, if you look at Don Quixote by Cervantes, and you look at La Celestina, both of them are full of this sort of thing. They're all full of sort of the challenging of narratives and the deconstructing of master narratives and all this sort of stuff, that he's acting like somebody woke up in fucking 1960 and said, okay, I'd like to deconstruct things. And also, modern art didn't start until 1960? Tell that to the fucking Dadaists.
Laced with this utopian vision that you're trying to insert into things, and it lacks that depth and that character and the richness and the beauty that stories like Lord of the Rings have, and you'll never
modern art, like Picasso didn't exist, for example,
ever get there. And you can try to paint your postmodern veneer over these transcendent works of art,
doing art before
but
1960s.
it's not going to feel right, and it didn't feel right in Star Wars, it didn't feel right, and it's not going to feel right in Lord of the Rings.
People are
okay, these guys who keep on talking, these guys are talking all their deep opinions about art. I have a feeling they have more than one of those ugly ass ape NFTs that they've actually paid money for it. These just look like the exact sort of people who would actually lay down money on that fucking scam.
are so concerned with making statements and upholding ideology that they're making things that are increasingly meaningless. And that's how our art is moving, our media is moving, all of our entertainment is going in that direction. And
okay. I mean, so she's saying that hiring cast members for films who aren't white makes them meaningless?
And you can just tell, watching old movies, reading old books, looking at old art, everything had so much more meaning than it does today. And
what? Okay, so what the fuck is her definition of meaning here? If you look at, people have this bizarre idea about the golden age of film or whatever. I'd love to know what she's talking about when she's talking about older movies. I have a feeling she's not talking about Metropolis or Branino Sitz Potemkin by Eisenstein or actual old movies. It's like, what is she talking about with it having more meaning? What does any of this actually mean?
it's an unfortunate sort of landscape that we're stepping into right now in our postmodern world.
All art is quite useless. It's from Dorian Gray. Great line. Should read the
yeah, Dorian Gray, written by by one of the best known gay authors in the history of the European canon. But I guess, see, this is him bowing to wokeness by citing a gay author.
the preface of Dorian Gray, Change Your Life, about art.
I mean, see, now it's true what he's been saying. just by citing that one gay guy. All of this entire video that we're watching so respectfully has ceased to mean anything at all. The presence of gays apparently makes things mean less or something. I don't fucking know.
Two things.
But we're
First, they're talking about hobbits. If you saw the first promotional image on that Amazon put
Hobbits.
out, 4 hobbits. If you look at the first promotional image they put out, it looked like in the image there were the trees of Valinor, which is really about like the first age, which there weren't hobbits. I don't even know why they're about to have hobbits in this show. Okay, there shouldn't be hobbits if this is focused on the first and second age of Middle Earth. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Nerding out again, but seriously,
Noted.
this is very true. I don't even know why they're messing around with having hobbits. Adds nothing to the show. Okay.
Almost
Well, maybe they decided it added something to the show.
very upset about this, the inclusion of hobbits.
How dare
Yeah. I mean, that is Will Shit's entire job on this show, is to freak out about cultural products that it's impossible to see how anyone could possibly get freaked out about them. I mean, his meltdown over Muppet Babies was classic. And this, I mean, where he apparently, like, not having a color bar in your casting requirements suddenly deprives the film of meaning, but he won't explain how. This is what he does, and apparently Florida did not chill him out, even though he does have his hat on backwards, which is a way of telling us that he's a really chilled out dude.
they in the first and second, third generation include hobbits?
First and second age.
Will Shit
Sorry.
is real.
When will they learn?
When will you learn?
Knucklehead.
Which one?
We should find that video. And play
We
it.
should find
I
that
know,
video.
seriously.
because
That's how I feel.
Oh, I would love them to find that video, because they could get a copyright rip.
It is what Will is experiencing right now.
But it's so personal. Imagine, I don't know what you like, Bratz dolls. Imagine if Bratz dolls went woke.
They, by his definition, they already fucking did.
You know?
I'm offended right now. I'm more offended than I would be if they changed Bratz dolls.
What's the thing that you would be like most heartbroken over if it went woke that you love?
I would really have to think about that. I don't know. I would
Really?
be pretty
Yeah,
upset if
Do you
Home
not
Alone
like
came out and
anything?
it was like super. Nothing like immediately sparks my mind that, oh my gosh, if they ruin this,
See, that is sad.
I will
That's
always
sad.
What
have
if they
that
like
thing.
remade The Notebook or Clueless? Or...
I've never seen The Notebook.
the Notebook sucks.
Are you
Only
even
seen
a girl?
Clueless a couple times.
What if-
I can no longer. Yes, purity of essence. Poe. Our precious bodily fluids.
They remade Legally Blonde.
I've only seen that a couple times.
Legally Blonde actually was, by their standards, fair. Well, it's woker than they would like,
Too. I don't know.
but that
don't
doesn't
know.
take much.
You don't have anything like that?
Their
Nothing
standards
immediately
are,
comes to
like-
mind that I'm like, if they remade this, like obviously I've gone through the whole remix and seen that, and I just know they're going to be trash, so it doesn't actually like irk me or physically upset me all that much.
You have like no.
This is great. They're sitting here trying to show that this isn't just some sort of weird ass performative white guy bullshit by finding an example of something that she would freak out like this over, and she is giving them absolutely nothing to work
piece of
with.
art or media that you're like very attached to, that you really
Well,
love.
that's most meaningful to you?
Yeah,
I have to think about it. I don't know.
that's wild.
Come back to
I
me in
can't
like
believe
30
you don't have
minutes. Give me
anything.
like a minute to think about it. I don't know.
You should just have it.
I should just have it.
Shakespeare.
No. I mean, I've read it, but no, it's not like, oh my gosh, if they rewrote this.
Who's like the most transcendently great musician that comes to mind? for
All
you?
the musicians that I like are super woke.
Oh god! This is she okay. She has totally, for all the bullshit that she has been a party to on this bullshit emporium that is PragerU. I have to say, all of it is forgotten right now because she is completely showing these two twats up. They totally desperately need some validation to show that this isn't just their bullshit preoccupation. and she has absolutely nothing. Everything.
So it's like,
If Missy Elliott came out,
first of all, I don't know a single Missy Elliott song other than I put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it, and I don't even know the name of that song. Secondly,
Missy Elliott.
that's a
Yeah, so so now they're like trying. They've spent so much time listening to her and getting to know her as a person that when they try to think of cultural products that might somehow resonate with her, it's just their list of random things they think all black people like.
I'm again offended by your deduction of what you think I would be interested in.
hey, if Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh. Anyways, guys, the skit in the beginning was really not a skit. Will is not returning to the show. It is now over.
I'm having a lot of fun here.
I can tell you're having a lot of fun here. I don't know. I'll get back to you guys. I'll think of something that is so important to me that I would cry if they made it woke.
That is just really. That is actually upsetting to me.
What?
Yeah, of course it's upsetting to you, and this is on the note on which we're going to pause this video until next week, because I think we all. I have to just sit there. The most upsetting thing for him, the most sincerely upsetting thing, he looks like really a little bit upset here, is realizing that actually his preoccupation with keeping black people out of movies and TV shows and stories that he likes is not actually a universal preoccupation, even amongst the sort of dickheads who work over at PragerU. It's actually kind of beautiful. And we are 5 minutes to 1, and so we're gradually going to be winding down. But see, Eric, you missed a couple of like last week where I had the most boring fucking video ever. I'm never going to do one of the seminars of the Center for Political Insomniacs again. Caleb Muppet's think tank, the guy who claims to hate think tanks because he calls them movement managers. He's got a think tank. It's the most boring fucking shit ever. And I'm never going to do one of those again because they put me to sleep and they put everybody else to sleep as well. But this is like fucking golden bullshit. This is the goose that laid the golden turd here. I think we're going to have a very good time with this for a few weeks to come. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who's shown up. It's always nice to see you. Glad you like the new layout. I'm quite proud of it myself. I also wanted to do that because in Thought Slime's most recent video, he actually says, apparently, when he stopped doing the, calls to action, the like, subscribe, Patreon thing that he normally was doing, that it actually reduced his metrics, that actually saying those things or mentioning them actually had an effect. So I wanted to have that on there since I've gotten a bunch of negative space anyway. So I'm giving that a go. Thanks for your presence and your participation in this conversation and this journey through chess and bullshit. And I think I'm going to wrap it up. Have a good night.